Chapter 597. Seeing that there aren't any soldiers coming, he finally panics a little. What do you want? If you want gold, silver, treasures, rare elixirs, I can give them all to you. Moreover, our daughter is a brilliant disciple of the Heavenly Road sect, the #1 genius of the Yanwu continent. You should know that offending our Jingcheng country will not end well. Ha ha ha. The people from the ink camp can't help but laugh. What Jingcheng country's royal family? It turns out to be just a bunch of gutless softies. Dog Emperor, do you know why we want to lay our hands on you? Why? Guan, who reveals his dense white teeth, saying sinisterly, it's because your good daughter, Gong Qianxue, has an irreconcilable enmity with my family's Mississippi. As the saying goes, a daughter pays a father's debt, so a daughter's debt naturally has to be paid by you, her parents and relatives. So if you want to blame someone, blame that snake and scorpion's daughter of yours. Gong Yinhai's complexion greatly changes. He suddenly turns around and runs towards the rear with all his might. At this moment, he doesn't even care about the lives of his wife, children, and ministers. When the people from the ink camp are about to catch up to him, he even directly grabs a concubine and blocks the blade for him. And it's also because of this moment of delay. A dozen or so gusts of wind suddenly break through the air from the southeast direction. Gong Yinhai's originally panicked face suddenly brightens when he sees these approaching figures. Ha 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 ha. Gong Yinhai snaps his head back, his face malevolent as he stares at Mayan. Your time of death has come. As he speaks, those dozen or so figures have already landed by Gong Yinhai's side. Bowing towards him, they say, Your Majesty, these subordinates have come to the rescue too late. Kill them. Kill them all for me. Gong Yinhai abruptly interrupts them, panting heavily, except for that little slut. Kill everyone else. I want them to know the consequences of provoking my Jingcheng country's royal family. The guards in the palace have indeed all been dealt with by the people from the ink camp. But those guards aren't the Gong family's biggest safeguard. Their safeguard is this group of pre-celestial experts. A whole 12 pre-celestial experts. That's a fighting force comparable to thousands of troops and horses. Gong Yinhai had just fled in a panic because he knew that these elders would soon arrive. As long as he could drag this out until the elders arrived, these thieves would definitely die. He viciously looked at the leader of the thieves, the girl who was so beautiful that she didn't seem like a mortal. He had expected to see her panic-stricken expression. Unexpectedly, her face was still as calm as before, and there was even a lazy smile on her lips. Seeing the 12 people approaching him, Yang Ling's eyes widened. Mayan waves her hand. Tianji unit, ink camp, withdraw. Guard the palace gates. It's the sound. With a response, the more than 100 people who had just surrounded Mayan retreated like a tide. Only Mu Yin, Bai Yichen, Yin Haoyin, Ru Yin, and Feng Haiteng were left on the field. Mu Yin stretched out a slender jade finger and pointed at the surrounding pre-celestial experts. She chuckled and said, 1, 2, 3, 4, a total of 12 people. I'll take 8 and you 4. How about it? Hearing this, Bai Yichen and the others looked ashamed. The young miss dealt with 8 by herself, while the 4 of them could only deal with 4. This was simply telling them how big of a gap there was between them and the young miss. However, they couldn't refute him at all. Chapter 598. Except for Bai Yichen, who can easily deal with an early pre-celestial, it's a bit difficult for the others to kill a pre-celestial expert alone, even with the help of Feather Grace. Just as they're feeling depressed, they suddenly hear a cold, childish voice coming from somewhere. Nyang Qin, Xiao Bao can also take care of too. A little boy who looks like a doll carved from jade pokes his head out from behind Mu Yin. He grabs Mu Yin's hand and gently shakes it, his face resolute. Ru Yin and the others are already used to Xiao Bao's mysterious appearance. They don't find it strange that he suddenly appears. Mu Yin just smiles and says, okay, then Xiao Bao will take care of these 2 ugly ones. The 4 people suddenly become even more depressed. They can't compare to the miss, but now they can't even compare to a 4-year-old child. They really want to bang their heads and die. Death is at hand, but they're still talking nonsense. The old man who leads the 12 people, a high pre-celestial, sneers, Mere 5 heaven stages, and they actually have the audacity to fight against us pre-celestial experts. Haha, this is the biggest joke I've ever heard. Yin Haoyin and the others suddenly turn their eyes to the 12 people. The grievance in their hearts instantly turns into a strong fighting spirit. Even if they're weaker than the miss, but these annoying old men, they must get rid of them cleanly and neatly. Otherwise, how can they be qualified to be the leaders of the fourth camp? As early as when Mu Yin was only a middle pre-celestial, she could already fight against more than 10 ghost envoys in the Ghost City. Not to mention that she has now reached the peak of pre-celestial. In just half an hour, the 6 pre-celestial practitioners that Mu Yin has locked onto are already lying on the ground, dying. She doesn't pay attention to Gong Yinhai's scream of horror and his almost fainted face. Mu Yin calmly plucks the strings of the zither, playing the feather grace, with her remaining spiritual power while giving pointers to Yin Haoyin and the others in their fight. The second person to kill his opponent is Xiao Bao. As soon as he's done, he immediately runs to Mu Yan's side and raises his little face to look at her. His big watery eyes are filled with excitement and expectation. This expression, like that of an ordinary child asking for praise, makes Mu Yin laugh. She picks up Xiao Bao and kisses him on his soft little face, then praises. Xiao Bao is really amazing. You're already at the peak of heaven stage. Xiao Bao nodded heavily. This time, he didn't just skip the high rank of heaven rank and break through to the peak of heaven rank. Furthermore, even his spiritual root was showing signs of being molded. Mu Yin kisses his face a few more times. During this time, the people of Jingcheng country's royal family panicked and wanted to escape. But when Mu Yin plucked the zither strings and the zither sound blades, transformed into countless blades, cutting their skin, they immediately screamed in horror and fell to the ground. On the other side, Bai Yiqin had already finished his battle and returned to Mu Yan's side. He was already at the peak of the heaven stage and was only one step away from the innate stage. Coupled with the assistance of the feather grace, it only took him more than an hour to deal with a mid-level pre-celestial expert. Mu Yin glanced at him and said with a smile, "After this battle, you can prepare to break through to the innate realm." Bai Yiqin's eyes lit up. He didn't say anything but nodded solemnly. Compared to Mu Yin, Xiao Bao, and Bai Yiqin, who were relaxed, Yin Haoyin, Ru Yin, and Feng Haitang's battles were much more difficult. Chapter 599. Moreover, they relied on Mayan's zither sound and elixirs to break through in a short time. It can be said that they simply have no combat experience. So even with the help of the graceful feather, they are still racking their brains, and there are bloody wounds all over their bodies. But Mayan doesn't have the slightest intention to help, because she knows that these people can only truly grow after experiencing cruel battles, and only then can they bear the responsibility of a camp leader. Finally, a full hour has passed. A message comes from the Ink camp. "Miss, we can't drag it any longer. Jingcheng country's army is already attacking the city gate. Our brothers can't hold on much longer." Maya nods, just as she's about to speak only to hear a loud bang, and Yin Haoyin's opponent crashes to the ground. At the moment of his death, his eyes are still wide open, filled with unwillingness and aghast. Until his death, he still couldn't figure out why he, a dignified pre-celestial expert, would lose to a heaven-grade practitioner. Yin Haoyin's victory is like an omen. Ru Yan's figure suddenly becomes almost invisible, like a phantom. That pre-celestial expert has been playing with Ru Yin, leaving deep wounds on her body that are visible to the bone. But at this moment, she suddenly panics, because she can't see or feel where Ru Yin is at all. It's like in a split second, Ru Yan's speed has risen to the limit that humans can bear. The next moment, that pre-celestial practitioner only feels a pain in his neck, and his head is directly cut off. And Feng Haitang's hand turns blood red in an instant. When that blood-red palm slaps the pre-celestial practitioner's body, he didn't care at first, but later he finds that his internal force is becoming thinner and thinner, and he can't even use it. In the end, a long sword pierced through his heart, killing him. Yin Haoyin, Ru Yin, and Feng Haitang slowly walk in front of Mayan. Their bodies are riddled with scars, and with every step they take, blood drips down. But their eyes are unprecedentedly bright, confident, and full of expectations for the future. Mayan raises the corner of her mouth, revealing a cheerful smile. You guys did very well. I'm proud of you. With just this sentence, the trio's eyes instantly turn red. Almost at the same time, the three of them knelt down. We are willing to serve, miss, for the rest of our lives. We will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Mayan casually tosses out a bottle of draft. There's no need to go through fire and water. Just escort this dog emperor to the city gates for me. Because the lives of Gong Yinhai and a group of royal relatives are in their hands, the Jingcheng country army outside has no choice but to retreat 10 miles away. It can be said that the entire Jingcheng country's imperial palace is completely under Mayan's control. Gong Yinhai's complexion paled, staring fixedly at the young girl sitting lazily on the dragon throne. His eyes nearly split open. You rebel. My Jingcheng country has millions of troops. Do you really think you can always be arrogant? I'm warning you. You'd better let us go immediately. Kowtow and admit your mistake, and I might even leave you with a whole corpse. Before Gong Yinhai could finish his words, Guan Hu immediately stepped forward, grabbed him by the collar, and started beating him from both sides. Pa, 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 pa. After a dozen slaps, Gong Yinhai's face immediately swelled up like a pig's head. Chapter 600. With a wave of her hand, someone immediately drags out Qin Qing, who no longer looks like a human. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth hooks up into a cold arc. In this godly Dr. Qian's stomach, it's all your precious daughter Gong Qinshua's favorite golden silkworm mother goo, and there are nearly 100 of them. If anyone doesn't answer my questions properly, I don't mind taking one out of godly Dr. Qian's belly and stuffing it into your stomach. I believe that you won't dislike something that Gong Qinshu likes so much. Gong Yinhai widens his eyes in horror, looking at Qin Qing's bulging belly and his hands that are only skin and bones. His body begins to tremble uncontrollably, and Gong Qinya is already screaming, wanting to run away. No, no, I don't want to become like that. Spare me. I don't want to die. Boo-hoo. Guan Hu immediately steps forward and slaps him a few more times. Grandson of a turtle, our miss didn't let you speak. You'd better keep your mouth shut for me otherwise. Don't blame me for being impolite. Mayan coldly sweeps her eyes over these people. In her previous life, she had also stayed in the imperial palace of Jingcheng country for a period of time. Regarding the debauchery of the Gong family's royal family, she couldn't be any clearer. At that time, she still felt that Gong Qinshu was untainted by the mud. With this kind of family, she herself was noble and untainted, not the slightest bit affected. But she didn't know that Gong Qinshu was the one with the most poisonous heart. Speak. Where is Gong Qinshu's real stronghold? How many people does she have? Mayan looks at Gong Yinhai below and slowly says in a calm tone, Speak clearly, and I can spare your dog lives. Gong Yinhai shrinks, opening his mouth to speak. But he hears Mayan continue. You'd better make sure that what you say is the truth. Otherwise, under the hypnosis of my zither, if you accidentally spit out the truth, I believe that you wouldn't be willing to bear that fate. Gong Yinhai remembers the frightening effect of her zither. How could he dare to lie again? No matter how important his daughter Gong Qinshu is, how can it be more important than his own life? Therefore, she immediately spilled the beans. She is in Litian City, which was given to her by me. It is adjacent to Huangyao country. There are 100,000 soldiers in there. You. Stop dreaming. That Litian City is easy to defend and hard to attack. Shui still has 100,000 soldiers and Xiantian experts. You better let us go. Mu Yan's fingers moved, and the sound of the zither flowed out. The person below seemed to be drunk in an instant. He swayed and fell asleep. She stood up from the throne and sneered. Throw everyone in the palace out, then burn this filthy place down for me. As for these people, keep a close eye on them. This is a surprise that I want to give Gong Qinshu. Yes, miss. In the dark night, a blazing fire illuminates the sky of Jingcheng country's imperial capital. The people who were asleep all ran out and looked in the direction of the fire. They were so shocked that they could not come back to their senses. Isn't that the imperial palace? How did the palace catch fire? What the hell happened? Suddenly, someone in the crowd bellowed, "That's heaven's punishment." Was it the people of the Gong family who committed many unjust acts and were finally punished by heaven? What do you mean by that? At that time, the Ghost Wind Valley will be ours, and that June Mayan and her immortal physique will become my Gong Chinchua's tonic. Huh. Congratulations, Your Highness. Duo Yin said, once Princess consumes the elixir refined from the immortal spirit body, she will ascend to the immortal realm immediately. At that time, this subordinate, Gong Chinchua, glanced at him and said faintly, "Don't worry, as long as you're loyal to me, I guarantee that I won't treat you unfairly. At that time, I'll have senior brother Jianfeng leave you elixirs. Those elixirs will naturally help you to successfully refine your soul and body." Many thanks, Princess. Duo Yin knelt down in excitement. Even if this subordinate goes to the Xiuzhen continent, I will still be loyal to the princess. Chapter 602. Princess, something bad has happened. Lianhua Town. Lianhua Town. Gong Chinchua frowned and said sternly, "What are you shouting for? What happened to Lianhua Town?" The man's face was pale. He swallowed his saliva and said in a trembling voice, "The people of Lianhua Town have all been released. Those corpse soldiers and Dr. Qian and the others have all been killed." "What did you say?" Gong Chinchua screamed, and her face suddenly became ferocious. "What about my golden silkworm larvae? Where's Qin Qing?" The man shook his head. "Dr. Qian is missing. The corpses of those corpse soldiers have all been burned. The doctors and the mother larvae are also gone." Who did it? What is that trash Qin Qing doing? He has so many corpse soldiers and a primordial realm expert in his hands. How could he still mess things up for me?" The man was frightened by Gong Chinchua's twisted and ferocious expression and took a few steps back. Gong Chinchua's face turned green and white. She wondered who dared to behave atrociously in front of her. Suddenly, the shouts of thousands of people resounded in the sky of Litian City. It also clearly reached Gong Chinchua's ears. "Gong Chinchua, you're worse than pigs and dogs, cruel and unscrupulous, shameless, wicked, old woman who has committed all sorts of evil and is an accomplice to a villain. Hurry up and get the fuck out here to pay your respects to our young miss. Old woman, come out and pay your respects to our miss." The whole hall was dead silent. Duo Yin and the surrounding guards and maids all lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at Gong Chinchua's face. But the people outside seemed to be addicted to shouting. One ugly word after another kept coming out of his mouth. Seeing that Gong Chinchua still hadn't come out, they began to change their words. 10 years ago, at the state banquet, Gong Chinchua, you lowly maid, was jealous that the daughter of a noble family was prettier than you. So you found someone to rape that woman and disfigure her. You made her wish she was dead and finally threw herself into the river. Gong Chinchua, don't you think it's heartless? 8 years ago, you took a fancy to a mercenary group and wanted to recruit them for your own use. After failing to bribe them, you despicably poisoned their food and caused them to die tragically in the jungle. Gong Chinchua, tell me, are you a beast in human clothing? 6 years ago, you were jealous that your junior sister was more favored than you and had more talent than you. So you had someone frame her for stealing the sacred object of the sect. In the end, her cultivation was crippled, and she was expelled from the Tiandao sect. Gong Chinchua, tell me, are you worse than a pig or a dog? Their curses pierced through the clouds. Gong Chinchua was not the only one who heard them. The people in Litian City and the army under Gong Chinchua's command also heard them. Her expression could no longer be described as ugly. The curses of nearly 1,000 people were like slaps that ruthlessly slapped her face in front of everyone. Just a few days ago, Gong Chinchua, in order to cultivate the zombie soldiers controlled by goo worms, you actually disregarded the lives of the people in Lianhua City and turned them into monsters that were neither human nor ghost. You even used the benevolence of doctors to lure them to Lianhua City to treat the people in the name of a plague. In reality, you planted a mother goo in their bodies and caused them to die after being sucked dry of their flesh and blood. Gong Chinchua, tell me, are you not a lunatic that everyone has the right to punish? Chapter 603. Who do you think you are, actually daring to slander this princess's clean reputation? Guards, capture them for me. Tear them to pieces, skin them alive, and pull out their tendons. There's a moment of silence in the air. Gong Qianxue abruptly comes back to her senses, only to discover that many soldiers on the city wall are staring at her in a daze. It seems that they've never seen the dignified and elegant princess reveal such a ferocious expression. And the common people of Litian City, attracted by the shouts, are even pointing at her. There's bewilderment in their eyes, as well as fear and disgust. Gong Qianxue comes to her senses in a split second. She's fallen into these treacherous people's evil scheme. In almost a split second, Gong Qianxue puts on a weeping expression. Tears are on her eyelashes, but they won't fall. She looks indescribably pitiful. She looks down at the row of black-clothed people below, bites her lip, and says in a loud voice, "Who are you people? Why are you slandering this princess's clean reputation? Could it be that you're the subordinates of that bandit that this princess annihilated last time? Although this princess was ruthless that day, it was also because you've done too much evil and killed too many common people." Hearing Gong Qianxue's words, the faces of the surrounding soldiers and common people immediately change. Their original suspicions towards her lessen a lot. Instead, they're full of suspicion towards the group of black-clothed people shouting below. Just as Gong Qianxue is about to say something again, she sees the group of people below opening up a path in unison. A girl in snow-white clothes, holding the hand of a delicate and pretty boy, slowly walks forward. The moment she sees the girl and the boy, Gong Qianxue's pupils suddenly widen. As if it's an instinctive premonition, her gaze firmly falls on that beautiful fairy-like little boy. Without waiting for her to react, the girl's clear voice comes from afar. "Gong Qianxue, haven't you always wanted to find us mother and son? Now that we've delivered ourselves to your door, why don't you seem to welcome us?" Gong Qianxue's line of sight turns and falls on Mayan. When the girl's absolutely beautiful appearance comes into view, Gong Qianxue's pupils slightly contract, and the flames of jealousy and resentment burn fiercely. "June. Mu. Yin." Gong Qianxue grits her teeth as she shouts this name. Loathing, fear, and boundless desire. She now knows that June Mayan is the woman who was pregnant with the immortal spirit fetus. As long as she eats her child, or even Mayan, she can immediately break through to the pre-celestial stage and ascend to the Xiuzhen continent. This was the ending that Gong Qianxue wanted to see even in her dreams. As long as she could have this woman and her child, Gong Qianxue takes a deep breath, her face slowly revealing a warm and gentle smile. "Dr. June, I don't know what misunderstanding there is between us, but you seem to have some hostility towards me. However, Ben Gong has always admired the famous Enchantress of medicine very much. If you don't mind, why don't you come to our Litian city and stay for a while? I'm sure your opinion of me will change." In the eyes of ordinary people in Yinwu continent, Gong Qianxue is a noble and kind princess, and also a talented practitioner with boundless prospects. To be invited by a princess in such a sincere manner, anyone else would have been overwhelmed by the favor. Mu Yin, however, chuckles in a low voice. She raised her head to look at Gong Qianxue and gently brushed away the strands of hair that were floating at the side of her temple. Only then did she unhurriedly say, "Really? Your Highness, do you really not have any hostility towards me?" Chapter 604. Ben Gong has always admired talented people, especially benevolent and virtuous doctors. As long as you are willing to stay in Litian City for a while, Ben Gong can give you a lot of rare herbs that you absolutely can't find outside, and I can even let Brother Jianfeng give you a pointer or two. Throwing out such a bait, would she still be afraid that Mayan wouldn't be tempted? However, Mayan's next sentence makes her almost unable to maintain her hypocritical face. Even if, at that time in the fog forest, the sacred beast egg that Princess Qianxue wanted by every means possible was eaten by my spirit pet. Saying that, she raises her hand and grabs a chubby rabbit from behind, shaking it under Gong Qianxue's eyes. "This beast!" Gong Qianxue screams, but immediately realizes that something is wrong. She reluctantly smiles and says, "Dr. June must be joking. Everyone can fight over the sacred beast egg. Before Gong Qinshue could finish speaking, Mayan's calm and unruffled voice interrupts her. Even if your Jin Hongmin and Qi Yin country was destroyed by me, wouldn't your royal highness be angry? Gong Qinshue's face has already begun to distort. Her hands are tightly clenched into fists, her nails piercing into her flesh, and she dryly laughs. Dr. Jun, what are you talking about? Why can't Bingong understand? What does Jin Hongmin have to do with Bingong? Is that so? It doesn't matter. That's really great. The princess is really magnanimous. Mayan smiles even more happily. So, even if I later killed Ghost City's Ghost King Lu Se, destroyed Xian Medical Pavilion, and killed all the corpse soldiers in Lianhua Town, presumably, your royal highness wouldn't mind. Slut. Hearing this, Gong Qinshue couldn't bear it anymore, and she lets out a hysterical roar. Sure enough, it's you, slut, who ruined all my good things. Mayan sneers. Gong Qinshue, you're finally not putting on an act? You should know that if you keep acting like this, I'm going to vomit from disgust. Do you really think that I still don't know who the person who wanted to dig out the child in my belly was? Gong Qinshue's chest violently heaves up and down, glaring at Mayan. Then, she laughed softly. So, you already know. In that case, this empress doesn't need to be polite with you anymore. Jun Mayan, you escaped 5 years ago, but you and your child are destined to be stepping stones for Bin Gong's advancement. What's more, her gaze swept over and landed on Xiaobao, and the smile on her face became more and more arrogant. Compared to 5 years ago when he was just a newborn, your son is much more nourishing now. This empress still has to thank you for helping this empress raise it for 5 years and letting me eat it properly. Oh, that's right, there's also that sacred beast egg. Since it was eaten by your spiritual pet, I only need to skin your spiritual pet and dig out the sacred beast egg. In any case, this sacred beast egg was originally dug out from the stomach of another foolish woman. The light in Mu Yan's eyes suddenly turns cold, and the killing intent on her body can no longer be concealed. The hatred of her past life and this life surged to the extreme at this moment, making her almost unable to control herself from rushing up and tearing Gong Qinshue to pieces. There was another person who was even faster than her, and her hatred was even deeper. A white light flashed, and Bai Yichen soared up to the sky, fiercely attacking Gong Qinshue. However, Gong Qinshue still hasn't moved. Chapter 605. That was Duo Yin who was at the peak of the Xiantian realm. At the same time, countless men in black rushed out, cutting off Bai Yichen's escape route. Bai Yichen spat out a mouthful of blood as he unleashed the pressure of a peak Xiantian expert. But he didn't seem to feel it at all, and only glared fiercely at Gong Qinshue. Gong Qinshue, Sidong, and you have no enmity, but for the sake of a spiritual beast egg, you actually cut open her stomach while she was still alive and crushed her dantian. Are you even human? Gong Qinshue looked at him disdainfully. Oh, so you're here to avenge that stupid woman? Hee. Who does that idiot Lin Sidong think she is? She's just a useless woman. Yet she dares to snatch the sacred beast egg from this consort? If she wanted to blame someone, she could only blame herself for overestimating herself. If she had obediently given the sacred beast egg to this queen might have spared her life. In the end, she said that she wanted to give it to senior martial brother, and she would rather die than hand over the sacred beast egg. Heh, for daring to snatch something from this empress, she deserves it. In the end, she said she wanted to give it to senior brother. Give it to senior brother? Bai Yichen's eyes reddened, and hot tears rolled down his cheeks. Sidong, that silly girl. Why couldn't she understand? Compared to the sacred beast egg, she was 1,000 times more important to him. Why? Why didn't he follow that silly lass? Why didn't he protect his Sidong, Gong Qinshue? I'll kill you. Bai Yichen let out a loud roar as he soared into the sky against Duo Yan's powerful pressure. The wind howled, and the long sword pointed straight at Gong Qinshue. Duo Yan snorted coldly. The steel blade in his hand made a buzzing sound, and a cold light shot out in all directions as it slashed towards Bai Yichen. This slash contained all the pressure of a peak inborn expert. If it really hit, Bai Yichen would definitely be cut in half. However, just as the blade light was about to touch Bai Yichen, the sound of the zither rang out. A ray of light flashed and instantly wrapped around Bai Yichen's waist, pulling him back. Duo Yan's blade slashed through the air, and he looked down fearfully. The one who made the move was Jun Mayan, a 19-year-old girl, much younger than Gong Qianxue. However, when Bai Yichen was swept away just now, it had forcibly blocked the momentum of his blade. This Jun Mayan, just how high is her cultivation? Could it be that he had already reached the innate realm at such a young age? Bai Yichen, calm down. Mu Yin looks at Bai Yichen, who is kneeling in front of her, her voice indescribably cold and indifferent. I hate Gong Qianxue more than you do, but being impulsive will not allow you to take revenge. It will only make all of your efforts fall short of success. The Shin father, Dr. Song, and Chen Qingfeng are all still in Gong Qianxue's hands. Even in her dreams, Mayan yearns for revenge. However, her hatred would never be built on the basis of sacrificing the important people around her. Bai Yichen lowered his head guiltily and said in a trembling voice, I'm sorry, I almost ruined everything. Uncle Rabbit Lantern. Xiaobao suddenly reached out and pulled Bai Yichen up. Don't be sad. Bad women will definitely get what they deserve. Bai Yichen looked at Xiaobao's serious little face, and a faint smile appeared on his pale face. Soon after, his expression became extremely calm, and he slowly walked behind Mu Yin. Gong Qianxue smiles coldly, her malicious eyes staring at Mu Yin, then she lightly waves her hand. In a split second, hundreds of black-robed men leaped onto the city wall. Each of these black-clothed men had a cultivation base of heaven rank and above. Chapter 606. Under the thousands of soldiers and horses, Mu Yin and the hundreds of people around her were like a small boat in the ocean, easily capsized by the raging waves. Seeing this scene, Gong Qianxue bursts into laughter. Jun Mayan, in Bengong's eyes, you are just an ant. If Bengong wants to pinch you to death, then Bengong will pinch you to death. If Bengong wants to eat your child, then Bengong will eat your child. Right now, I'm high and mighty, while you're as low as dust. What qualifications do you have to talk to me? Mu Yin raises the corner of her mouth and is about to speak. Ru Yan's face is cold as she suddenly steps forward. Miss, please wait a moment. Isn't it too insulting for you to raise your head and talk to a beast like Gong Qianxue? Miss, please give this subordinate a quarter of an hour. Mayan stares blankly, unable to react. Ru Yin waved her hand. Over 100 soldiers of the Heavenly Secret Battalion walked out. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, these secret division members actually used materials from the ground to build a tall observation tower in just 15 minutes. The lookout tower was simple and crude, and only a dozen people could stand on it. However, it was just a little higher than the city wall that Gong Qianxue was standing on. Ru Yin triumphantly shoots a glance at the ashen-faced Gong Qianxue, and cupping her hands towards Mayan, she says, I ask Miss to go to a higher place. Let's see how that vicious woman is going to look down on you. Each and every one of the people of the Tianji unit also feels honored. They raise their necks and proudly look at the people of the Ink camp, saying in a loud voice, Miss and Little Master, please ascend the platform. Mu Yin is almost amused by this group of subordinates. It was hard for them to be able to cause trouble for Gong Qianxue in such a place at such a time. But it had to be said that looking at Gong Qianxue's unsightly expression, her mood was very good. With a light leap, Mu Yin flew up to the platform with Xiaobao in her arms. Almost at the same time, Yin Haoyin, Feng Haidang, Bai Yichen, and Ru Yin also led some people and jumped up. Gong Qianxue coldly looked at Mayan and sneered, Jun Mayan, do you think that by building a high platform, you can confront Bengong? With just a few hundred of you? Don't tell me you're daydreaming. Mu Yin raises her eyes unhurriedly saying, Gong Qianxue, you really don't need to disguise yourself anymore. In front of your people, you don't mind exposing your true face at all? Gong Qianxue's face darkened even more as she looked down at the edge of the city wall. Her actions just now had indeed caused the commoners to look at her suspiciously. Heh, so what if they have doubts? They're just a bunch of stupid commoners. With just a few casual words, he would be deceived. Gong Qinshue straightens her expression, and with an awe-inspiring righteous expression, she says in a clear voice, "Citizens of Litian City, this Junmayan is a spy sent by the Go City and Qi Yin country to our Jingcheng country. She intends to disturb our Jingcheng country's imperial court. Therefore, I must exterminate them today. Could it be that you would rather believe an outsider than me, Gong Qinshue?" After all, Gong Qinshue was the princess of Jingcheng country. In Jingcheng country, especially in Litian City, her power and influence wasn't something ordinary people could compare with. The words that the Ink Camp people just shouted, and the conversation between Gong Qinshue and Junmayan, really made the common people have doubts. But it's only suspicion. Compared to a stranger like Junmayan, they certainly trust Gong Qinshue more. Chapter 607. Mayan clicks her tongue and sighs. "I can't help but admire the princess's spirit of pretending to be a white lotus. Of course, I know that the people of Litian City won't believe me, but I don't know if they believe me or not. What about the people of Lotus Town?" As soon as her voice falls, Feng Haitang immediately whistles. The next moment, the people of the Everlasting Camp immediately surround and protect several people of Lotus Town. Each of these people is the most virtuous and respected elder of Lotus Town, and one of them is even the city lord. Lotus Town and Litian City both belong to Jingcheng country, so some people have seen the city lord of Lotus Town. Are they really the people of Lotus Town? How could they appear here? The city lord of Lotus Town raises his head and glares fiercely at Gong Qinshue. After a long while, he chokes with sobs. "Gong Qinshue, how can you be so ruthless, so sinister? We are obviously all your people, but you actually use us as containers to raise goo, puppets, and so cruelly slaughter the people. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning?" All the people of Litian City. Another citizen of Lotus Town shouts, "We saw it with our own eyes. The people around us and our relatives were killed by Qian Qing, who was sent by this poisonous woman. We watched helplessly as our loved ones turned into a monster that was neither human nor ghost. Yet we were powerless to do anything about it. Don't believe this venomous woman, otherwise, what happened to us today will be your tomorrow. Gong Qinshue, a venomous woman like you is simply not worthy to be our princess, and even less worthy to rule Jingcheng country. You will definitely suffer retribution." If the words of Mayan and the people of the Ink Camp just now only made the people of Litian City suspicious, at this moment, they look at Gong Qinshue with astonishment and vigilance. Because these words weren't said by an outsider like Mayan, but by the people of Lotus Town, their compatriots. Everyone speaks of these things in such a vivid manner. Could it really be false? Gong Qinshue's face distorts in anger. "Junmayan, you are really vicious. You actually colluded with the people of Lotus Town to frame Bin Gong." "Frame you?" Mu Yin revealed a mocking smile. "Your Highness, don't tell me that you don't know this Qian Qing." As he spoke, someone immediately dragged Qian Qing, who was as thin as a match and had a bulging belly, onto the stage. Seeing Qian Qing's bulging belly, Gong Qinshue's nostrils shrank. She almost immediately guessed what was inside Qian Qing's stomach. That was the larva of the golden silkworm Mother Goo. This was the only hope she had left to nurture corpse soldiers. At this time, Qian Qing is already living a life worse than death. He raises his skull-like face and looks at Mayan with a pleading look, only begging her to give him a quick death. The pain of having so many Mother Goo gnawing away at his flesh and blood was indescribable. That was truly the torture of the 18 levels of purgatory. Mu Yin sneered at him. "Miracle Dr. Qian, when you placed the goo worm into someone else's body, did you ever think that you would have such a day?" Woo! Woo woo woo. Qian Qing's tongue was cut off and she couldn't speak, so she could only beg for mercy with tears and snot all over her face. "You want to die?" Qian Qing nodded desperately, uttering ah sounds. Chapter 608. Her line of sight turns and falls on Gong Qinshue's face. "I wonder if Her Highness the Princess would be reluctant to part with these Mother Goo dead?" Gong Qinshue's complexion alternates between green and white, simply wishing she could tear Junmayan apart. Of course she wants to take back the Mother Goo of the golden silkworm goo. That's the only larva she has left. However, The common people of Litian City are watching. If she does this, the reputation that she has accumulated and her prestige in Jingcheng country will be completely destroyed. Gong Qianxue opens her mouth, wanting to speak. She hears Mayan sneer. It seems that Her Highness the Princess is merciful, allowing you to die. Then, Hao Ian, burn everything down for me along with the goo. You dare. Gong Qianxue finally couldn't bear it and roars. All the gentleness and kindness on her face has disappeared without a trace. Only a cold cruelty remains. Jun Mayan. That's my mother goo. You dare to destroy my mother goo. Whoosh. As soon as Gong Qianxue says this, the common people of Litian City boil up in a split second. It's actually true. Her Highness the Princess is really using the flesh and blood of the common people to raise goo. How could a woman with such a heart of snakes and scorpions be worthy of being our princess? Gong Qianxue coldly glances at the common people who are speaking, her face filled with madness and ruthlessness. You lowly commoners, it's your honor to be a stepping stone on my road to success. Duo Yin, go and take back the golden silkworm goo for me. There aren't enough people in Lotus City, so I'll use these lowly commoners of Litian City to raise my golden silkworm goo. As for these lowly commoners, if anyone dares to act rashly, kill them without mercy. At this moment, the dagger is revealed. All of Gong Qianxue's ugly and ruthless true colors have been exposed. Just as the common people of Litian City are about to riot, more than half of them are injured by the rushing black-clothed men and soldiers. In their hearts, they hate this once revered princess to the extreme, but there's nothing they can do. Gong Qianxue's gaze has already fallen on the opposite tower. Jun Mayan, do you think that you can use these insignificant lowly commoners to kidnap me and make me let you go? What a joke. You're just a bunch of useless trash. After today, I'll naturally make sure that they won't be able to say a single word. The same goes for all of you. Seeing that your medical skills are quite excellent, I'll let your body incubate my final golden silkworm goo. As he spoke, Duo Yan's figure had already leaped high into the air. Like a bolt of lightning, he charged towards the tall watchtower. In a split second, the wind howled and the pressure of an inborn expert enveloped everyone on the pagoda. Ru Yin, Old Tao, and the others, who had low cultivations, turned pale. Their bodies swayed, as if they could not hold on any longer. Chapter 609. However, it's still too late. The speed at which the flames burned was extremely fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, Qian Qing is burned to ashes. The golden silkworm mother goo in his stomach also didn't escape. The anger in Duo Yan's eyes is almost gushing out. With a wave of the long sword in his hand, the sword that can split mountains and split stones is about to completely cut down this temporarily built observation tower. However, his sword hasn't been swung down yet. Suddenly, he hears a melodious sound of a zither. Immediately after, there's a sharp pain in his chest. Puff, puff, puff. That's the sound of metal-piercing flesh. Duo Yin can feel that all the internal force and vitality in his body are quickly flowing away with this piercing sound. He lowers his head in disbelief. What he sees are the 7 zither strings that have run through his body. One of them has directly pierced his heart. The zither strings are slowly stained with his blood, and then emit a colorful light. It's very beautiful, but it's like the light of the Grim Reaper's scythe. Duo Yin stiffly raises his head and looks in Mayan's direction. Not far away, the beautiful girl smiles at him. Her smile is charming and languid, but with a holiness that can't be profaned. It's like a high and mighty fairy of the 9th heaven, looking at an insignificant ant with pity and ridicule. Buzz! With a sound, the girl's slender fingers move in the air. In a split second, the 7 zither strings come out and return to the girl's body, transforming into 7 swords of different colors, gently circling around. Chiju's sword spirit, the top skill of the Shin musician level 3. A peak pre-celestial expert is killed in one blow. Bang! Duo Yan's body falls from the high platform and heavily falls on the yellow sand, raising a cloud of dust. After a moment of silence, the Nether Flame army lets out a warm cheer. On the city wall, Everyone is deathly pale. Gong Qinshue's eyes widen in disbelief, almost unable to believe what's happening in front of her. That's Duo Yina, the most capable assistant with the highest cultivation by her side. He has been at the peak of the pre-celestial for decades, and he's only a step away from forging his body and refining his soul. But Duo Yin is dead. Moreover, he died in the hands of a woman younger than herself, Mayan. How is this possible? If that's the case, just how high is Jun Mayan's cultivation? Gong Qinshui grits her teeth. The jealousy and unwillingness in her heart almost engulfs her whole soul. She should be the #1 genius of Yinwu continent. Why did this slut Mayan appear? To ruin her good deed? To rob her reputation? Why couldn't that slut, Jun Mayan, obediently let her dig out the child in her belly 5 years ago, and let her refine it into an elixir to eat? Otherwise, she would be the one at the pinnacle of the innate realm. No, even if there is no golden silkworm. Chapter 6:10. Gong Qinshua's actions just now really hurt the hearts of the people of Jingcheng country. Furthermore, many of these soldiers were recruited from Litian City. But the other half, after hearing Gong Qinshua's shout, their eyes lit up, and they immediately readied themselves for action. A moment later, he rushed toward the observation deck. He watches as tens of thousands of soldiers surround Jun Mayan and the others as well as the people from the ink camp. Gong Qinshua's ugly face finally revealed a carefree expression. So what if Jun Mayan's cultivation is higher? 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. She could fight 10 of them, but could she fight 100 or 1,000 of them? Surrounded by thousands of soldiers, these hundreds of people were like ants that could be squashed to death at any time. Seeing this scene, Mu Yin smiled. He casually changed his posture and sat cross-legged. His fingers lightly moved on the strings, producing a pleasant sound. She raised her face and asked faintly, "Are you guys ready?" Of course. Ru Yin, Yin Hao Yin, and Feng Haiteng all kneel before Mayan, their faces brimming with eagerness and excitement. Ru Yan's eyes shine brightly as she says, "My Nether Flame Army's 3 camps, Ink Camp, Heavenly Secret Camp, and Longevity Camp, have been operating for so long, and have consumed so many of Miss Precious elixirs and drafts, all for this day." This was the day when the Nether Flame Army truly made their appearance. It was also an unforgettable day for the people of the world to remember the Nether Flame Army from afar. Mu Yin looks at the excitement and fighting spirit on the faces of the 3, and the corner of her mouth hooks up into a shallow smile. Go. It's time to let Gong Qinshui know how many gifts I've prepared for her. Ru Yin and the other 2 received the order, and each walked towards 3 different directions of the lookout tower. Then, they used their fingers to press their lips together and let out different whistles. On the city wall, Gong Qinshui is about to order Jingcheng's army to attack. Suddenly, the ground rumbled and shook. The rumbling of horse hooves, shouts, and footsteps came from all directions. Gong Qinshui looked over in shock. From the east, west, and south, there was a huge group of people galloping over. After a short period of a few tens of breaths, the army had stopped outside Heaven Departing City. The number of troops in this group isn't actually large, but they've spread out in a large circle, faintly encircling Jingcheng's army. Soon, a man in the east jumped off his horse and knelt on the ground. Black Camp Squan Hu, leading 2,600 elite cavalry, reporting to Miss and Commander Yin. In the south, a slender woman jumped off her horse and knelt on the ground. Heavenly Secret Battalion's Feng Jingya, leading 1,700 people, reporting to Miss and Commander Ruyan. In the west, a hale and hearty old man in his 50s jumped off his horse and knelt on the ground. Longevity Camp's Old Tao, leading 1,900 men, reporting to young Mistress and Commander Feng. As soon as the 3 finished their reports, the thousands of soldiers behind them roared in unison. The Nether Flame Army is invincible. Long live the young miss. Long live the young master. Gong Qinshui stared fixedly at the scene in front of her. Listening to the shouts of the people below, her eyeballs almost popped out. How was this possible? Jun Mayan is a woman with no power, no influence, no background. How could she gather such a powerful army? The cultivation of every soldier here had even reached the Xin grade. They're even more powerful than her Jingcheng's army. Junmayan, on what basis does she have? But very quickly, Gong Qinshue calms down. Because no matter how powerful this army is, it's still less than 10,000. Chapter 6:11. However, if she wanted to kill these people in a short period of time, her army would definitely suffer heavy losses. But if she captures Mayan alive, these people might be of use to her. Gong Qinshue rolled her eyes, a sinister light flashing in her eyes. She raised her hand and shouted, "Wait!" Hearing Gong Qinshue's order, Jing Cheng's army immediately stops. "Junmayan, do you really want to go against me?" Gong Qinshue sneered. "Don't forget, your foster father is still in my hands. Or are you saying that you don't even care about your adoptive father's life?" While speaking, a black-clothed man immediately carries the disheveled and haggard Shen father, Shun Yicheng, to the top of the city wall. Gong Qinshue slowly walked to Shun Yicheng's side and smiled. "Master Shun, do you see that? That's your adopted daughter. She overestimated herself and wanted to go against me, but I am magnanimous and can give her a chance. As long as you can convince her to surrender to Bin Gong will naturally give everyone in the Qin family a way out. Otherwise, just wait for Bin Gong to lead an army to flatten your Qin family and make it so that your Chun family will never have any descendants." Hearing this, the Shun father raises his eyelids, which are almost glued together by blood, and looks towards Gong Qinshue. Just when Gong Qinshue still wanted to say something, she suddenly spat on Gong Qinshue. "Stop dreaming. My Qin family's people would rather die than surrender." "Yin Yin." Shin father lifts his head and looks at Mayan on the observation platform. He says in a hoarse voice, "Yin Yin, don't worry about Daddy. Daddy is already old. His death is not to be regretted. You must never yield to this vicious woman." Piak. He ruthlessly slaps the Shun father's face, causing one side of his face to quickly swell up, and fresh blood overflows from the corner of the Shun father's mouth. "Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Then don't blame me for being impolite." Gong Qinshue said in a cold voice, "Min, chop off his hands and feet for me." "Gong Qinshue, you dare." On the opposite observation deck, Mayan walks step by step to the edge, coldly watching this side. The pressure of a peak innate expert was suddenly released. Gong Qinshue felt as if her blood had frozen. The man in black beside her was shivering, and his face was pale. For a moment, he couldn't move a single step. Gong Qinshue revealed an aghast and jealous expression, hurriedly taking out a medicinal pill and swallowing it. Then he looks at Mayan and says darkly, "Junmayan, as you can see, your foster father is now in my hands. Not only him, but also those old undying doctors. Their life and death are all under my control. If you know what's good for you, you'd better surrender obediently. Otherwise, I'll chop off your adoptive father's arms and legs and slice off his flesh piece by piece." The sword in Gong Qinshue's hand is firmly pressed against the Shun father's neck. Then he looks at Mayan with a sneer. However, Jun Mayan's panic-stricken, angry, shocked, and pained appearance didn't appear. Her expression was frighteningly cold, and there was not a trace of emotion on her beautiful face. "Gong Qinshue, you've given me such a big gift. If I don't reciprocate, wouldn't it be a pity?" Gong Qinshue stares blankly. "Jun Mayan, what are you saying? Could it be that he has lost his mind?" Mayan claps her hands together and lightly claps them. Soon, someone from the Ink camp escorts a group of people up. These people's appearance is really similar to the Shun fathers. Each and every one of them is disheveled and dirty, extremely haggard. Chapter 6:12. Seeing these people appear, Gong Qinshue simply couldn't believe her eyes. "Imperial father, imperial mother, imperial brother, why are you here? Schwerer, quickly save us." When Gong Yinhai saw Gong Qinshue, he immediately cried and shouted with a face full of snot and tears. The other children of Jingchang country's royal family are also wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. They're begging Gong Qinshue not to go against Mayan again and quickly save them. Gong Chinchua looks at Mayan in shock. You slut, what did you do? His voice suddenly became louder, filled with endless fear and disbelief. Mu Yin smiled slightly, her expression cold and mocking. Nothing much. It's just that, Your Highness, don't you like to plunder other people's houses? So, to return the favor, I also went to the princess's house to make a copy. Your Highness, your family members are all here now. As for that magnificent Jingcheng country's imperial palace, I'm afraid it's already turned into a pile of scorched earth. No, this is impossible. Gong Chinchua roars hysterically, her expression like a madman. That is my Jingcheng country's imperial palace. There are 12 pre-celestial powerhouses inside, and thousands of troops and horses guarding inside and outside the city. How could you possibly capture my imperial father and imperial mother? How could you possibly burn the imperial palace? Jingcheng country's imperial palace, that magnificent palace, is the place that belongs to her in the future. One day, she will ascend the throne as empress there and unify the Yinwu continent. How could it be burned down by that slut Junmayan? Mayan's cold eyes look at the almost insane Gong Chinchua. Gong Chinchua, didn't you say that you have a lot of hostages in your hands that can threaten me? In that case, let's see who has more hostages and who has more chips. She lightly plucked the zither strings. The next moment, the people from the ink camp immediately take a step forward and grab all the members of Jingcheng country's royal family. 10 slaps landed on the faces of Gong Yinhai and the others. Pa, 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 pa. These 10 slaps could be said to be merciless. In an instant, the faces of Gong Yinhai and the others swelled like pig heads. Some of them even had their teeth knocked out. His ears were filled with the painful wails of the Gong family. Mu Yan's face is cold and solemn. From now on, the pain you inflicted on my father and other friends, I will return it to your family tenfold, 100-fold. If you slap my father once, I'll return 10 slaps to every member of your Gong family. If you chop off one of my father's hands, I'll chop off all the limbs of your Gong family. If you cut off a piece of my father's flesh, I will cut off the flesh of your parents piece by piece. The afternoon sun shone on the girl's beautiful face. Chapter 613. Still not releasing Junmayan's father. As the emperor of Jingcheng country, we order you to release him immediately. On Litian City's side, everyone's eyes are on Gong Chinchua, especially the soldiers of Jingcheng country. Princess, hurry and save them. That's the emperor and empress. Yes, princess. The other side will do what they say. We can't ignore His Majesty's life. Gong Chinchua grits her teeth, her eyes spitting fire as she looks at Mayan, as if she can't wait to rush over and tear her apart. Junmayan, you despicable slut. You actually used Bungong's parents to threaten Bingong? Who is the slut scolding? Ru Yin sneers. The princess seems to have turned her head and forgotten who the hostage was. What's more, isn't the conditions given by our miss very reasonable? Everyone has hostages in their hands. Release them together. It's very fair. No one will suffer a loss. Yes, yes. Very fair. Swear. Gong Chinchua, what are you still doing? Gong Yinhai shouts, quickly order for them to be released. Gong Chinchua's eyes fall on Gong Yinhai, Gong Chinya, and the others. Suddenly, the anger on her face fades little by little, slowly turning into a cold ruthlessness. What's the use of these wastes? As her parents and brothers, not only can they not help her, they will only hold her back. That's right. What's the big deal if these wastes die? Isn't Jingcheng country still hers? She can even ascend the throne more smoothly, because she's the only one left in the royal family of Jingcheng country. Ha 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 ha. Junmayan, that slut, thinks that she can threaten her. She doesn't know that she's paving the stepping stone for her. Bring the bow and arrows. Gong Chinchua suddenly shouts and reaches behind her. Soon, a black-clothed man hands over the bow and arrows. She knocked the arrow and pointed it at Gong Yinhai and the others. Gong Yinhai's eyes widen. Gong Chinchua, you evil creature, what are you doing? No way. Ru Yin cried out in alarm. Gong Chinchua has actually become deranged to this extent. Those are her parents and relatives. Ah. Even Yin Haoyin, who has always been indifferent, also shows a shocked expression. Only Mu Yin wasn't surprised in the slightest. Instead, the corners of her mouth curled up to reveal a wisp of dense ridicule. Yes, she should have known. Gong Qianxue, this deranged woman, would not have the slightest bit of conscience. He had thought that she would at least care about his parents' lives, but he didn't expect her to be vicious to such an extent. For the sake of his own future, he would rather kill his own parents with his own hands. Imperial father, imperial mother. Gong Qianxue is unhurried. Her voice doesn't have a trace of the gentle and virtuous gentleness that she pretends to have in the past, leaving only cruelty and heartlessness. It's not that your daughter doesn't want to save you, but that slut Jun Mayan is too cunning. Your daughter absolutely cannot let them succeed. Don't worry, after you die, your daughter will definitely avenge you. Swish. Before he could finish his words, an arrow pierced through the air. Without waiting for the people of the ink camp to react, it has already pierced through the chest of the Empress of Jingcheng country. Her almond-shaped eyes were wide open as she stared at her daughter in disbelief. After a long time, she collapsed unwillingly. He breathed his last. Swish, swish, swish. The second, third, and fourth arrows were released one after another. Chapter 6:14. At the same time, he lets out a beast-like angry roar. Gong Qianxue, you evil creature, killing your father and mother like this, aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning and retribution? Gong Qianxue lifts the corner of her mouth, smiling faintly. Retribution? This consort is a woman of destiny. I will only climb to the peak and rule over everyone. How could there be any retribution? Imperial father, just obediently go. Don't worry about your daughter anymore. When your daughter becomes empress, I will definitely make Zhue Feng the retired emperor. Whoosh! Another arrow mixed with powerful internal force shoots out, instantly piercing Gong Yanhai's chest. He holds the arrow in his chest, shaking it unwillingly, and lets out a roar before his death. Jingcheng country's army, listen to my order. Kill the traitor. Gong Qianxue. Bang! Gong Yanhai's corpse falls to the yellow ground, but his eyes are wide open, unwaveringly staring at Gong Qianxue above, as if he wants to swallow her alive. He died with everlasting regret. From the beginning to the end, Jun Mayan and the Nether Flame Army just watch Gong Qianxue's frenzied performance, not participating in it. However, looking at the woman on the city gate tower, who looks like a peach, but has a heart like a snake and scorpion, they only feel a chill. How could a person be vicious to this extent? Even the lives of her own biological parents, she doesn't care at all. Ha 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 ha. Gong Qianxue puts away the arrow in her hand, her whole person bursting with energy, insolent and proud. Jun Mayan, now, the chips in your hands are completely gone, but your father's life is still in my hands. I'd like to see what other methods you have to fight against me. Mayan slightly frowns, not speaking. Ru Yin anxiously says, Miss, what should we do? Why don't we rush forward and rescue Master? Mayan shakes her head, rejecting this plan, because Gong Qianxue's blade is too close to Shen Father. A little carelessness, and Shen Father might lose his life on the spot. Gong Qianxue can disregard her father's life, but Mayan can't. What's more, Dr. Song and the others haven't been rescued yet. Gong Qianxue, tell me, what do you want? Mayan coldly asks. This time, the situation could be said to be completely reversed. The expression on Gong Qianxue's face became even more savage and carefree as she said loudly, I want you to chop off your wrists right now, cripple your qi and cultivation, then come over and become my captive. I wonder if you cherish your own life more than your father's. Ha ha ha. How dare you? You want to cripple Mrs. Cultivation? Dream on. Hearing Gong Qianxue's words, the entire Nether Flame Army exploded. Yin Haoyin and the others revealed ominous glints in their eyes, wishing that they could fly over right now and dismember Gong Qianxue's corpse into 1,000 pieces. The Shen Father has a face full of shame as he resolutely runs towards the blade. wanting to mutilate himself in exchange for Mayan's victory. However, Gong Qinshue grabbed his hair and stepped on him pathetically. Jun Mayan, I'll count to 3. If you haven't crippled your own cultivation and chopped off your hands, then don't blame me for messing up your father's qi and chopping off his 4 limbs. 1. 2. Mayan takes a step forward. Okay, however, what's even faster than her is an ice-cold, but crisp, little childish voice. I'll be your captive. The air froze in a split second. Mayan jerks her head back, looking at her baby son behind her. The people of the ink camp also look over, revealing an aghast expression. Chapter 6:15. Xiaobao didn't look at her, but walked step by step to the edge of the lookout, looking at Gong Qinshue in the distance. If I were to be a captive, I should be better than mother. Young master. Little master, what nonsense are you talking about? How could you put yourself in danger? Xiaobao glanced at them coldly. He clearly didn't release any pressure, but he was born with the temperament of a monarch. In an instant, everyone on the observation deck was speechless. On the city wall, when Gong Qinshue saw Xiaobao walking over, her eyes suddenly lit up, as if there was a burning flame of greed burning in them. Immortal physique, that was the immortal physique. She giggled. Are you really willing to become my captive? Jun Machin, come back here. Mu Yan's complexion turned deathly pale. She took a step forward, as if she wanted to pull Xiaobao back. However, Xiaobao turned around to look at her and murmured, Mother, Xiaobao can't just watch you hurt yourself. After saying that, without waiting for Mu Yan to stop him, his small figure had already soared into the sky, and then steadily landed on the opposite city wall. The distance between the watchtower and the city wall was actually quite far. Xiaobao was only a 4 or 5-year-old child, yet he was able to fly over effortlessly. This immediately shocked many people. But Gong Qinshue was not surprised at all, because back in the misty forest, she had already witnessed this child's shocking talent. A 4-year-old beginner heaven rank. He was only 1 or 2 small realms lower than her. At that time, Gong Qinshue was still full of shock and amazement, but now she didn't feel it was strange at all. That was a celestial physique. Wasn't it a given that he had such talent? And it was precisely because of the immortal physique's outstanding talent that her cultivation was able to undergo such a drastic change after she swallowed it. Looking at the little child who had landed in front of her, Gong Qinshue couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Why aren't you coming over? Come over to my side. Xiaobao frowned and said in a grown-up tone, Don't try to trick me. I'm using myself to exchange for Grandpa. If you want me to go over, release my grandfather first. Otherwise, I will immediately jump down from here. Gong Qinshue glances at the Shun father at her feet. Indeed, compared to the immortal physique, this old fart Shinicheng was useless. As long as she has the immortal spirit body, how could Jun Mayan ignore her own son? Gong Qinshue gave her subordinate a look. Immediately, 2 innates and 4 to 5 heaven-rank black-clothed men surrounded Xiaobao. Someone even grabbed little Bao's arm to prevent him from jumping off the tower. Xiaobao obediently didn't resist, but his big blue eyes stubbornly looked at Gong Qinshue, waiting for her to fulfill the agreement. Gong Qinshue chuckles lowly, lifting her foot to give the Shan father a kick, directly kicking him down from the city gate tower. With the immortal physique, what use would Shun Yiqing have? What's more, she still has Jun Mayan's subordinates and dozens of doctors in her hands. Gong Qinshue grinned maliciously as she walked towards Xiaobao step by step. All right, little friend, I've already fulfilled my promise and released him. Now, it's time for you to come into my arms. She walked over to Xiaobao and reached out to pull him into her arms. He had already prepared the elixir that his senior brother had given him. Once this elixir was taken, even a pre-celestial powerhouse would be powerless from head to toe, unable to use internal force. After all, she hadn't forgotten that Xiaobao was a heaven-rank expert. Chapter 6:16. Just as her hand is about to touch Xiaobao's arm, Xiaobao's little face suddenly lifts up, revealing a delicate snow jade complexion and a pair of clear and cold blue eyes with a hint of ridicule. Auntie, You're so much older than my mother, and you still call yourself an older sister? Don't you have any shame? Gong Qinshua's face suddenly stiffens. There's a roar in her mind. Only the words auntie, old, reverberate in her mind. Soon after, she sees the little figure in front of her soar up to the sky and ruthlessly slaps her on the chest. Gong Qianxue only feels that the internal force of 15 kilograms is like a boulder pressing down on her chest. She gives a muffled groan and suddenly spits out a mouthful of blood. Catch! Quickly catch this little bastard for me. A hysterical scream pierces the sky. The black-clothed men on top of the city wall all fly towards Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao coldly snorts in disdain, and with a fierce stomp of his feet, he soars into the sky. His little body flies up into the air. Immediately after, he sees a white light shoot out from the direction of the watchtower, wrapping around his waist and directly pulling him back. Xiao Bao throws himself into Mu Yan's arms all of a sudden, hugging her neck and gently rubbing against it. Soon after, he raises his head, his big eyes flickering, revealing an expression of seeking praise. Nyang Qin, was Xiao Bao's performance good? Baby, you're amazing. Mu Yan isn't stingy with her praise and kisses him on his tender little cheek. Thank you for saving grandfather. Nyang Qin is proud of you. Xiao Bao's lips are lightly pursed, but the tips of his eyebrows and the corners of his eyes are slightly raised, carrying a rarely seen childlike cheerfulness. Mu Yan tightly hugs the baby in her arms, and the fear in her heart slowly recedes. Even though she knew what her baby was going to do the moment Xiao Bao came out, and she also knew that her baby would definitely succeed. But by the nature of a mother and son, when Xiao Bao flew to the top of the opposite city wall, her heart had almost jumped out of her throat. She was afraid that her baby would suffer even a little bit of harm. Fortunately, her Xiao Bao, her child, is even more formidable and outstanding than she had imagined. Yin Yin, Xiao Bao, I'm sorry, I've dragged you down. Shen Yicheng, who was rescued by the people from the ink camp, shows a guilty expression. Mu Yin crouches down and feeds him another elixir. She softly says, Father, we are relatives, family. There's no such thing as implicating or not. You have to take good care of your body. Big Brother is still waiting for you to return to Hellflame Valley. Good. Yin Yin, I really didn't expect that you would grow to this stage one day. Tears streamed down Shen Yicheng's old face, and he warned Mu Yin to be careful before he was sent away. Chapter 617. Someone come. Bring that group of doctors and Jun Mayan's subordinates here. Slut, you think that after rescuing Shen Yicheng, I won't be able to do anything to you? Don't forget, I still have a lot of hostages in my hands. This time, I'd like to see how you're going to save him, slut. Very soon, dozens more people are dragged up. Each and every one of these people has disheveled hair, bloody noses, and swollen faces. Their faces hard to distinguish. But just by looking at the clothes they're wearing, you can recognize that they're Dr. Song and the others, as well as the soldiers of the ink camp, as well as the young staff of the Junji Medical Center. Gong Qinshua's eyes are filled with crazy hatred. She doesn't even give Mayan the same mental torture she did when she questioned the Shin father just now. Instead, she directly drags a person over and cuts off his hands with a knife. Soon after, the blade is pressed against the man's neck, and she lets out an ear-piercing laugh. Jun Mayan, do you see that? These people are still in my hands. Don't tell me you don't care about their lives. Could it be that you have the heart to watch these innocent people die for you? Mayan smiles faintly and carelessly says, Really? I really want to see it. Gong Qianxue suddenly widens her eyes, as if she doesn't believe that Mayan would say such words. Good. It seems that you really won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Gong Qianxue bellows, and at the same time, the knife in her hand falls down, chopping off the head of the man in her hands. Cut off half of their hands and feet for me. Woo. The dozen or so people who are caught simultaneously let out painful groans, but they don't know why they can't speak. But Gong Qianxue has already been completely overwhelmed by anger at this time, and she simply doesn't notice that anything is wrong. As soon as she gives the order, The dozen or so heads thud to the ground. Gong Qianxua's face is splattered with blood, and she grins nastily. Do you see that, Junmayan? These people died for you. If you still don't surrender, Bingong will also kill the remaining half. These people have pledged their loyalty to you to the death. Let them die innocently for you. Do you have a conscience? Heh. Mayan lets out a low laugh. Gong Qianxue, even your conscience feels sorry. How could I feel sorry? After all, these people aren't loyal to me, but you. No matter what, they used to give their all for you. I didn't expect that they would end up like this. Gong Qianxue suddenly opened her eyes wide and said in disbelief, "What did you say?" She seemed to have suddenly thought of something and suddenly pounced in front of the head that she had just chopped off. She pushed aside her messy hair. However, it was not Dr. Song's face that was revealed, but her trusted subordinate. This was impossible. This is impossible. Gong Qianxue madly rushed over and pushed aside everyone's messy hair, only to discover that none of these people were the hostages she thought they were. On the contrary, every single one of them was her confidant, her strength that she relied on. But now, half of them had been killed by her. As for the remaining half, their stomachs were bulging and they were on the brink of death. Their flesh and blood would be devoured by the goo at any time. Junmayan, it's you. You're the one behind this. What did you do? However, no one on the observation deck paid attention to her hysterical roar. Dr. Song and the others, riddled with scars, have already been brought over. Following behind them is Han Yi. Chapter 6:18. He can't do anything that would destroy the balance of the Yinwu continent. However, it was very easy for him to do these little things that didn't matter much. Dr. Song and the rest were currently in a deep sleep. The goo worms in their abdomens had been taken out, and their lives were no longer in danger. However, it would take a long time to replenish the blood and essence that had been sucked away by the goo. After Mu Yin confirms that they're all right, she looks at Han Yi. Thank you very much this time. Madam, don't be so polite. Han Yi smiles. Sooner or later, we'll all be one family. Madam's business is our business. Cough, cough. Seeing Mayan's unkind gaze, Han Yi immediately changes the subject, and this time, it really isn't all my credit. Seeming to have thought of something, the light in Han Ye's eyes slightly sinks. His line of sight shifts towards the ink camp, who have also been rescued. When I went to save them, it was already too late. A few doctors couldn't hold on any longer. The gold silkworm goo larvae were about to break out of their bodies. At that time, even if I bring him back, he will only be a corpse. But strangely, one night, all the golden silkworm larvae suddenly fell into a deep sleep, as if they were on the verge of death. Dormant. Mu Yin slightly frowns, revealing a puzzled expression. Will the golden silkworm goo fall into a deep sleep? Han Yi says, we, the people of the polar domain, don't know much about the art of medical goo and poison. We're not very clear about it. But I know that most goo worms will fall into a short slumber after being attacked by the extreme cold. It was also because these goo worms were in deep slumber that I was able to smoothly extract these goo worms and place them in the bodies of Gong Qianxue's subordinates. What's strange is that the moment these goo worms entered the bodies of Gong Qianxue's subordinates, they immediately woke up and started to suck their flesh and blood. Mu Yin looks pensive. You mean, someone is helping us? Did you find out who they are? Han Ye's gaze turns towards the direction of the ink camp. He moves his lips, seemingly wanting to say something, but in the end, he swallows it back down. After a brief conversation with Han Yi, Mayan walks towards Changyu and the others. This time, when Tianyuan City was robbed, it wasn't only the doctors, Shinfather, and Shen Jinglin who were injured, but also these people from the ink camp who had risked their lives to follow her. In order to protect the Shinfather and Shen Jinglin, they stubbornly resisted, and in the end, more than half of them died. There were less than 30 of them left. Seeing Mayan approaching, the eyes of everyone in the ink camp brightened. Chang Yu's eyes were the brightest. They all knelt down and said in a hoarse voice, "Greetings, miss." Mu Yin looked at these subordinates who were riddled with scars but had no regrets. Her heart was filled with an indescribable emotion and sourness. She wanted to apologize, because he was the one who had implicated them. But in the end, she only said softly, "You guys are very good. The Ink Camp, the Nether Flame Army, me and Xiaobao, we are all proud of you." More than 20 people abruptly raised their heads, and their eyes instantly reddened. Complex and passionate emotions flashed across their bruised faces. Most of them were the first to follow Mayan. After being abandoned in Wanrenku, the words they heard the most were trash, beasts, and trash. In the past, they had abandoned themselves to despair and were cruel and bloodthirsty. Once upon a time, they were abandoned in a corner of the world, and no one cared about their lives or the value of their existence. But now, they finally found the faith to survive. Chapter 619. Willing to go through water and tread on fire for Miss and Master, without hesitation. Willing to go through water and tread on fire, without hesitation. The corners of Mayan's lips gently curve up, not moving. Xiaobao steps forward, helping the 20 people up one by one. Being personally helped up by those fair and tender little hands, hearing Xiaobao's childish voice calling out their names, saying, "Welcome back." 7 feet of sweat, but each and every one of them is brimming with tears. Only Changyu goes in front of Mayan, a pair of dark eyes greedily looking at the girl's beautiful profile without blinking. However, when Mayan turns around, he quickly lowers his head, concealing all the emotions in his heart. "Miss, I'm sorry. It was my incompetence that caused the Ink Camp to suffer such heavy losses." The man's hoarse voice of self-blame makes Mayan's expression soften, and she tenderly looks at him. But strangely, she doesn't know why, but she feels that Changyu's appearance seems to have changed a little. It seems that compared to his previous ordinary appearance that couldn't be recognized in a crowd of people, he's become a lot more handsome and good-looking. But looking closely, she feels that those eyebrows and eyes are exactly the same. Unexpectedly, she recalls the time when she was painting. At that time, she felt that Changyu's body and face were very out of place together. The lines of his body are very graceful, so much so that it can be said that he has a masculine charm that can make people's blood boil. But that face is like a passerby that can be caught anywhere. However, Mayan quickly throws this thought to the back of her mind. After returning to Hellfire Valley, you will gather the people again and form a team of the Ink Camp. You will always be the Ink Camp's first captain. Changyu's gaze jumps, as if there's a blazing emotion that's about to gush out. He purses his lips, and only after a long while does he say, "So, miss, can I still stay by your and the little master's side?" "Of course." Mayan curls up the corners of her mouth and smiles. "It hasn't even been 5 years, and you already want to leave?" "No. As long as Miss and Little Master don't mind, this subordinate is willing to follow you for a lifetime." Changyu's reply was resolute and decisive. His lowered eyes hid too many emotions. Not far away, Hanyi glances at Changyu, slightly narrowing his eyes, his expression unfathomable. Just then, Gong Qinshua's hysterical roar is heard from the other side. "Junmayan, do you think you've won like this? Don't forget, I still have thousands of men and horses. Even without hostages, I can still trample all of you into meat patties. Slut, if you have the guts, then fight my army head-on." Mu Yin raises her head and looks at Gong Qinshui across from her, revealing a mocking and disdainful smile. "Face off?" "Gong Qinshui, don't you know that I've waited for this moment for a very long time? Nether Flame Army, listen up." A clear shout came out unhurriedly. In an instant, shouts of agreement that were like a tsunami resounded from the surroundings of Heaven Departing City. "Ink Camp, heed my order. Heavenly Secret Battalion, heed my command. Longevity Battalion, heed my command." "As you command, young miss." Mu Yin slowly sits down cross-legged, her fingers lightly plucking the strings of the zither. Her gaze sweeps over the thousands of soldiers and horses below, as well as Gong Qinshua's ferocious face on the opposite side. Then, she gently and lazily spat out the word given. "Kill." Clang. The sound of the zither suddenly rose in pitch, turning into the roar of mountains and tsunamis, the shaking of the earth, the shattering of the heavens, and the splitting of the earth. As for the three Nether Flame army, they seemed to have received instructions and roared in unison. Chapter 620. On the city wall, Gong Qianxue looked at this scene and revealed a crazy smile. She kept muttering, "I won't lose. How could I lose? My people are many times more than that bitch's subordinates." That's right, that bitch will definitely lose miserably. At that time, she will crawl under my feet and be trampled on and slaughtered by me. However, Gong Qianxue didn't know. There is a profession called Xin musician in this world. Why are the people of the Xiaoxian continent so afraid of the Xin musicians? Because that was truly a heaven-defying existence. Not only could she make herself stronger, but she could also make the people around her stronger. But at the same time, it could infinitely weaken the enemy's advantage on the battlefield. Graceful Feather was activated. The enemies were locked onto one by one. 1, 2, 3, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Mayan's complexion begins to turn pale inch by inch, but her eyes are incomparably bright, like the most dazzling star in the summer night sky. In this life, her hatred, her resentment, her pain, and her despair would all come to an end today, at this moment. To put an end to it with his own hands. 10,000 Jingcheng country soldiers were locked on. 20,000 Jingcheng country corps soldiers were locked on. 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. Bright red blood oozes from the corner of Mayan's mouth. Little Treasure's hands were clenched into fists as tears welled up in his blue eyes. But he didn't say anything, nor did he move, because Xiaobao understands his mother better than anyone else. He knew that when his mother showed that kind of expression, it meant that she was determined not to turn back and wouldn't let anyone change her mind. The intense music slowly became gentle and melodious, and when the sound of the zither finally reduced to a sobbing, almost inaudible sound, Yin Haoyin, Ru Yin, and Feng Haiteng all stepped forward. They are separately facing the Ink Camp, the Tianji Camp, and the Longevity Camp on the east, south, and west. A silk banner had appeared in his hand, and he was waving it in the air. Boom! The appearance of this banner was like a signal, igniting the Nether Flame Army's originally suppressed fighting spirit. On the contrary, it's the army of Jingcheng country. At this moment, they suddenly felt as if their hands and feet were filled with lead. The Xian qi in his body seemed to be frozen by the cold, unable to circulate. What was more important was their heart and their will. Just now, they had witnessed Gong Qianxue's brutality and rebellion with their own eyes. This woman is insane, using the innocent people of Jingcheng country to raise those terrible goo insects. She even killed her own father with her own hands. Was such a woman really worthy of their loyalty? All the soldiers had the thought of retreating and the fatigue of slacking off. Their eyes were drowsy, and they couldn't lift their hands or move their feet. They couldn't wait to fall asleep. Mu Yan's face was deathly pale. Looking at the scene below, she revealed a smile of understanding. This was the reason why she tried every possible way to force Gong Qianxue to reveal her true colors. Although Graceful Feather was very powerful. However, this was an army of nearly 100,000 soldiers. It was almost impossible to use Feather Grace to lock onto all the enemies at the same time and weaken their strength and willpower. But what if these people had already aroused doubt towards Gong Qianxue and had the intention to rebel? Chapter 621. One side's momentum is like a rainbow, sweeping away all obstacles. The other side is muddle-headed, not advancing but retreating instead. In this way, even if there's a huge disparity in strength, the final outcome is clear at a glance. The war lasted for an entire hour. Finally, the dust settles. The Nether Flame Army lined up in a neat formation, bringing the enemy's heads, pressing down the captives, and wrapping up their spoils of war, returning to their original positions. And what about the entire 100,000 Jingcheng army? But in this hour, some escaped, some died, and some were captured. In the end, not a single one was left. On the city wall of Litian City, Gong Qianxue's whole body is trembling. Her complexion is even paler than Mu Yan's. Suddenly, Gong Qianxue let out a shrill scream, fleeing down the city wall in panic and embarrassment. Mu Yin coldly watches this scene and waves her hand. Attack the city. After a short quarter of an hour, Litian City has completely changed hands. This isn't because the strength of the Nether Flame Army has really reached such a level. Rather, at this moment, Gong Qianxue has already lost the hearts of everyone. Almost at the moment when Mu Yin gave the order to attack, the common people of Litian City had already rebelled and opened the city gates. The Nether Flame Army marched straight in. Under the guidance of the common people of Litian City, they found Gong Qianxue and her confidant, who wanted to escape from the underground palace. Mu Yin looks at the woman being escorted by the ink camp in front of her, her gaze somewhat complicated. In her memory, Gong Qianxue was always aloof, cold, and arrogant. But now, the woman being forced to kneel in front of her has disheveled hair, ragged clothes, and is in a sorry state like a beggar. Jun Mu Yin, you dare to touch me. I'm the princess of Jingcheng Country, a distinguished disciple of the Heavenly Road sect, and the person that Senior Jianfeng admires. No, you don't dare to kill me. If you kill me, all of you will die. Senior Jianfeng will never let you off. Not waiting for her to finish shouting, Guan, who has already grabbed her hair and slapped her face 4 times in a row. Lousy hit you. Let's see what you can do to me. Gong Qianxue's face instantly swells like a pig's head. Her eyes were about to spit fire. They were filled with resentment, but there was also a hint of fear. Mu Yin slowly crouches down, looking at her with an expressionless face. Gong Qianxue, in your entire life, you've schemed and schemed, treating everyone as chess pieces and stepping stones. For what? Just to fulfill your wish of becoming an immortal and ascending to the immortal realm? Gong Qianxue gritted her teeth and said, I am the proud daughter of heaven, the darling of fate. You ants being able to become my stepping stones is your honor. What right do you have to resist me? Mu Yin narrows her eyes. Yes. In her previous life, Gong Qianxue was truly the darling of heaven and earth. After obtaining the sacred beast egg, she refined her most beloved Xiaobao into a pill and consumed it. She was favored by Jianfeng and became a disciple of the Heavenly Road sect. She also inherited the imperial power of Jingcheng Country. Even the Ghost City is under her control. It could be said that most of the Yinwu continent has fallen into her hands. It was her own stupidity and flesh and blood that allowed her to finally refine her body and soul and achieve perfect ascension. However, God gave her a chance to be reborn. This time, her baby is alive and well by her side. She didn't lose any of her relatives or friends. And Gong Qianxue and her positions have been completely swapped. Almost at the same time, a terrifying, majestic power came crashing down from the void. Chang Yu's eyes darkened, but before he could make a move, his collar was already grabbed by someone and thrown behind him. A slender and frail figure stood in front of him. A dazzling light burst forth from the young girl's body, slowly forming 7 swords of different colors, surrounding the young girl. The rainbow-colored light shrouded the girl's delicate figure, making her seem even more fragile, making people want to protect her even more. But it was such a frail young girl who had shouldered countless heavy burdens. Chapter 623. Chang Yu's vision is slightly blurred. He wishes he could embrace this slender figure, confine her in his arms, and protect her at all costs. But he can't. Brother Jianfeng, you've finally come to save me. Feeling the familiar breath, Gong Qianxue screams in excitement. Almost at the same time, a figure rushes down from the void like lightning, heading towards Gong Qianxue. The pungent smoke, accompanied by a powerful pressure, shrouds everyone around. The lower cultivations of the Nether Flame Army twitch and fall to the ground. Even Yin Haoyin and the others have pale faces, their lips purple. It's obvious that they've been poisoned. Mu Yin sneers. The sound of the zither suddenly rings. The fog in the air seems to be swept away by a gust of wind, and is instantly blown away without a trace. Not far away, Jian Feng's figure also appears. Seeing that his unique poison is easily dispelled, Jian Feng's expression changes slightly. But he doesn't have time to think about it. He directly picks up Gong Qianxue and leaves. Mu Yin sneers. You hurt my people, and you want to leave so easily? As soon as her voice falls, the 7 swords around her have already shot out. With a puff, Jian Feng, who has just leaped into the air with Gong Qianxue, groans and suddenly spits out a mouthful of blood. But just as his figure is about to fall, thick smoke suddenly rises all around him. When the smoke dissipates, Jian Feng and Gong Qianxue's figures have long disappeared. No need to chase. Mu Yin stops Yan Haoyan and the others from chasing and says lightly, you can't deal with Jian Feng, even if it's a seriously injured Jian Feng. Just from the confrontation just now, she has already seen that Jian Feng's cultivation is far beyond the peak of the pre-celestial realm. He shouldn't just be a person from the Yinwu continent. Yes, miss. Yan Haoyan and the others bow and say yes, their faces revealing a guilty expression. They are still too weak after all. The miss's internal force is exhausted. Not only can they not help, but they also have to rely on the miss to protect them. Mu Yin knows what they're thinking and opens her mouth to speak. But suddenly, a huge sense of dizziness surges up. Her eyes go black, and her body softly falls down, losing all consciousness in a split second. Nyang Qin. Miss Yin Yin. Han Yi reaches out to support Mayan. However, there was someone who was even faster than him. A moment ago, Chang Yu was clearly standing several meters away. But in that instant, he actually teleports over like lightning and catches Mayan's limp body. Han Yi looks over, bewildered and uncertain. He only feels that Chang Yu's quick movements just now are somewhat abnormal. Nyang Qin. Xiao Bao rushes to Mu Yan's side, sobbing. Looking at her mother's pale, bloodless face, tears instantly fill her blue eyes. He really wants to take his mother from Chang Yu's hands. Chapter 624. There's no expression on Chang Yu's face, but he doesn't loosen his grip. No need. I can do it. I can. Protect her. I can. Give her happiness and safety. Han Ye's face suddenly turns completely gloomy. The surrounding air also stagnates in a split second. Ru Yin and the others look at the way Chang Yu carries Mu Yin, and there's an indescribable sense of incongruity. The way Chang Yu is holding the miss, it's a bit too intimate, too careful and protective. That doesn't look like he's protecting a master. Instead, it looks like he's guarding his beloved. Ru Yin coughs softly. Chang Yu, let me and Haiteng take turns being carried by the Mississippi. Saying that, she reaches out to take Mu Yin from Chang Yu's hands. However, Chang Yu takes a step back. He looks down at the girl's sleeping face in his arms, and on his indifferent and ordinary face, there's a gentle expression. No need. I'll protect the Mississippi. You'd better call the doctor over. Yes, doctor. Dr. Song, quickly come and see the miss. The miss has fainted. Ru Yin and the others seem to wake up from a dream. They no longer care about what's wrong with this atmosphere and promptly have someone call Dr. Song. But Han Yi suddenly steps forward, unsheathing his long sword and coldly says, I'll say it again, let go of our madam. Otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Not only does Chang Yu's hand not loosen, it slowly tightens, and he takes a step back. He opens his mouth, wanting to say something. Suddenly, a powerful pressure, as if the sky is falling and the earth is splitting, shrouds him from all directions. Bang, bang, bang. Countless stone pillars in the surroundings shatter, dust flying everywhere. Chang Yu only feels a dull pain in his chest, as if it's about to explode. His whole body seems to be torn to pieces by that powerful force. Before he could react, his arms are already empty. He suddenly looks up. He sees a tall figure standing proudly in the dust. Even if he can't see his face, that disdainful, imposing manner is enough to make people want to surrender. And the miss that he's deeply worried about is in that person's arms, tightly imprisoned and possessed. In an instant, Chang Yu feels that it's not only his arms that are empty, but also his heart that's in so much pain that it's almost impossible to breathe. Who are you? Ru Yin and the others still hadn't figured out the situation. Thinking that Jian Feng had returned, she couldn't help but anxiously shout, "You dare to hurt our miss. We will definitely tear you into pieces." Several thousand people from the Ink Camp, Heavenly Secret Camp, and Longevity Camp unsheathe their swords. They're about to form a sword formation and recklessly rush in to save the people. But just as the three commanders were about to give the order, Xiaobao's clear and cold voice came steadily, "You're not allowed to attack. Mother is fine." His blue eyes flickered as he stared at the figure that slowly appeared after the dust settled. Just a moment ago, he was still wondering why this person wasn't here. Why didn't you come back to protect Nyangqin? Then, at this moment, he appeared. When Xiaobao saw his mother in his arms, he felt that if there really was someone who wanted to fight with him over his mother, if there really was someone who wanted to be so intimate with his mother, he would rather it be him. It could only be him. Han Ye's eyes brighten, his voice trembling. He slowly kneels down. "Junshang, you've finally returned." When the dust has completely settled, the man's devastatingly beautiful and matchlessly handsome countenance is revealed. His indifferent blue eyes sweep over everyone present. He doesn't need to say a single word, just one action. But it makes everyone keep quiet out of fear, wishing that they could crawl at his feet. Deming Ju's hands couldn't help but abruptly tighten, and he tightens his hold on the girl, shackling her in his arms. Chang Yu looked at this scene in a daze, only to feel as if there was a bunch of huge thorns in his chest, tearing at his heart. At this moment, he finally understood. His words just now were ridiculously wrong. Not only did Di Mingxin have a crush on Miss Mu, but Miss Mu also had this man in her heart, and only this man. And what does he count as? Chang Yu reveals a bitter smile, slowly taking a step back. He kneels down on the ground and says in a hoarse voice, "This subordinate swears to follow Miss and Little Master to death, and will never have the slightest bit of wishful thinking." Chapter 626. Turning around, he picks up Xiao Bao with one hand, puts him on his shoulder, and turns to leave. Watching the backs of the three people as they leave, everyone in the Nether Flame Army is envious. This is such a beautiful scene. A talented man and a beautiful woman, a match made in heaven. Junshang is so handsome and powerful, and the miss is so incomparably beautiful. Even the little Gongzi is adorable like Snow Jade that everyone loves. At this moment, many people are convinced that Xiaobao is Di Mingju's son. Otherwise, they simply can't imagine what kind of outstanding man is worthy of their miss, worthy to be the father of their little master. Chang Yu slowly stands up from the ground, watching this scene. The pain and loneliness in his eyes are deeply hidden. Suddenly, a hand pats his shoulder. Chang Yu hears Guan Hu's rough voice in his ear. "Boss, don't blame this brother for not reminding you. There are some thoughts that you shouldn't have. You should put them away as soon as possible." "Miss, you can't have such thoughts." Although he and Chang Yu are now leaders, Guan Hu has always regarded Chang Yu as the boss. When the Ink Camp was just established, it was also Chang Yu who was the first to obey Mu Yin and pointed out the bright path for them. Because they were willing to follow the miss, to be loyal to the little master, they have today. Therefore, many people in the Ink Camp respect Chang Yu as a deputy commander second only to Yin Haoyin. But among everyone, only the seemingly careless Guan Hu can see through Chang Yu's thoughts. He has always been worried about Chang Yu's misplaced infatuation. Chang Yu turns to look at him. The corners of his mouth pull up, revealing a wry smile. In the end, he doesn't say anything and turns to leave. Guan Hu frowns slightly, watching the man's lonely back as he leaves. He lets out a long sigh. Mu Yin feels that she's having a long dream. In the dream, the sound of the Tian Emo Qin echoes in her ears. There are also earth-shaking battle cries, screams, and roars. The Shin musicians are possessed by demons. Everyone has the right to punish them. Kill all of them. The Shin musicians, heal the sick and save people, have never harmed a wronged life, and have never done anything that goes against reason and nature. But you, just for the sake of power and selfishness, want to slaughter my Shin musicians. In the end, who is the demon? Bailey Inlu. As long as you hand over the Shin musician inheritance, my Tiani Min might even give you an intact corpse. I curse you. The Polar Domain, the Heaven Physician sect, the Yin-Yang sect. I curse everyone in the Xiaoxian continent to die a horrible death. One day, my Shin musician successor will return to the Xiaoxian continent. When that time comes, she will definitely wash this continent with blood, so that you will never be able to reincarnate. One day, the revenge of my Shin musician sect will come. Just you wait. Just you wait. Just you wait. Mu Yin suddenly opens her eyes, her heart beating violently. In her dream, the Shun musician sect and Bailey Inlo's mournful cries before their deaths, filled with hatred and hatred as deep as a sea of blood, seemed to fill her heart, making it almost impossible for her to breathe. What had happened 1,000 years ago? Why did the Shin musicians become the target of the entire Xiaoxian continent's pursuit? Furthermore, she seemed to have heard. Polar Domain? Mu Yin takes a deep breath, suppressing the churning emotions in her heart. Chapter 627. Once her line of sight is fixed, Mayan's breathing, which had just recovered, suddenly stagnates once again. A handsome face comes into view without any hindrance, making her heartbeat completely disorderly. Di Mingju, who usually opens his eyes, has a pair of deep, dark, ice-blue eyes. From top to bottom, there's a lofty and aloof coldness, just like an emperor who rules over the world, making people unconsciously want to kneel down at his feet. But the man who's sleeping right now, the light falls on his fair face, reflecting the sharp angles of his face. Under the sword-like eyebrows, there are thick, long, and slightly curled eyelashes. The long eyelashes gently droop, covering those ice-cold eyes, making his entire temperament soften. Under the handsome bridge of his nose, there's a pair of thin lips. The line of his lips is taut, carrying a trace of solemnity. But sleeping peacefully like this, it inexplicably gives people a kind of childlike cuteness. Mayan's vision is somewhat blurred. When she was unconscious, she vaguely saw Di Mingju's face. At that time, she thought that it was her own dream, but she didn't expect that it would actually be true. This man, he really came back. Her hand uncontrollably reaches out, gently caressing the man's eyebrows, as if to confirm that he really exists. Her fingertips lightly touch those ink-black eyebrows, the tightly closed eyes, and the thin, lightly pursed lips. Her fingers touch the man's lips in the air and quietly stop. She inexplicably wants to touch it, to see if it's the warm touch in her memory. Suddenly, Mayan seems to realize what she's doing, and her face reddens. Just as she's about to take her hand back, her wrist is suddenly covered with a warm touch. Her wrist tightens, and her whole body is pulled over, falling into the man's embrace. A familiar coolness hits her in the face, accompanied by the man's unique scent, making Mayan's flushed cheeks even redder. Let go. When she opens her mouth, she realizes how flustered her voice is. Di Mingju, what are you doing? The man bends down slightly, his hot breath at her ear. Shouldn't Ben Jun be asking you this? Yin Yin, what do you want to do while I'm sleeping? Mayan didn't expect that she would be caught red-handed. She felt extremely guilty and could only put on a strong front. Don't talk nonsense, I didn't. Di Mingju looks at her blushing little face. The anger he felt when he saw Changyu hugging her disappeared without a trace at this moment. He firmly clasps Mayan's slender wrist and presses it against his chest. Yin Yin, why do you have to be so sneaky? Where else do you want to touch? Your husband will let you touch as you please. Shut up. Mu Yin finally flew into a rage out of humiliation and jumped up. Who said I wanted to touch you? I just wanted to slap you awake. However, before Mu Yin could even jump off the bed, he was already pulled back by a strong force. For a moment, the world spins, and Mayan's hands are pressed on top of her head. The man's tall figure enveloped her completely. Demingju's peerlessly handsome face is within reach. His serene blue eyes are filled with her reflection. Yin Yin, long time no see. Did you miss me even for a moment? As he spoke, the man's warm breath blew on his face, causing Mu Yan's skin to feel numb and itchy, as if there was a layer of goosebumps. Chapter 628. The man's voice is so dark and husky, like a bewitching whisper, but like a brand, it's engraved into the depths of her soul, leaving her nowhere to escape. So, when Demingju slowly leans over, getting closer and closer to her lips, Mayan completely forgets to resist. She even sinks into that kind of blazing chaos of passion. She unconsciously sticks out her tongue and licks her somewhat dry lips. Such a small action is like a fuse, suddenly igniting Demingju's painstakingly suppressed passion. His eyes are frighteningly hot, like a beast that has been starving for a long time, itching to devour its prey into its belly. His sexy Adam's apple bobs up and down. Demingju leans over, about to kiss those cherry blossom soft lips. However, at this moment, slap, a small palm covers Demingju's face. Then, a crisp and angry little voice reaches their ears. Letcher, you're not allowed to bully Nyangqin. The two turn their heads at the same time, and what they see is a small, expressionless Xiao Bao sitting on the bed, glaring angrily at Demingju. Jun Shang's face immediately darkens. Anyone's mood would explode if they're interrupted in the middle of a good occasion. The low pressure around him is as thick as an approaching storm. Unfortunately, Xiao Bao simply ignores him. Instead, he pushes him away with a small hand and pounces into Mayan's arms. Nyangqin. Xiao Bao's voice is filled with grievance. Nyangqin is Xiao Bao. Nyangqin can't ignore Xiao Bao. You can't not see Xiao Bao. In fact, when Mayan woke up, Xiao Bao and Demingju were sleeping on her left and right. It's just that when she opened her eyes, she saw Demingju. For a moment, she didn't notice Xiao Bao's existence. At this time, she hears her baby complaining in a voice filled with grievance, acting like a spoiled child. What Demingju? What charming and gentle feelings! She immediately throws them all to the back of her mind. She holds Xiao Bao in her arms and kisses him on his tender cheeks. Good baby. Nyangqin loves Xiao Bao the most. Hearing Nephrite's kind words, Xiao Bao's complexion softens. Blushing, he also softly kisses Mayan's face. Soon after, he hugs Mayan's neck and rubs it, while turning his head to look at Demingju, revealing a provocative and flaunting expression. Demingju faintly looks at him, then hooks up the corners of his lips, revealing a meaningful smile. Jun Machin, long time no see, how's your training progress? After saying that, without waiting for Xiao Bao and Mu Yin to object, he directly lifted him by the collar and carried him out of the room. Let this lord see if you have retreated. Although Xiao Bao is reluctant to part with his mother's embrace, he thinks that he can become stronger under Demingju's training, so he obediently doesn't resist. After a day of training, even with Xiao Bao's extraordinary talent, he was so tired that he almost collapsed. Chapter 629. If he had a tail behind him, he's afraid that he wouldn't be able to stop himself from wagging at this time. Ingmei sees his silly appearance and can't help but burst out laughing. But very quickly, her smile converges. Jun Shang is injured. I naturally have to follow and protect him. Originally, Star Wolf and the others also wanted to follow, but Jun Shang stopped them. Han Ye's complexion changes. Jun Shang is really injured? How is the injury? How did you get injured? Ingmei tells him about Demingju breaking into Tiananmen alone, and how he killed Lu Sei. Han Yi is simply dumbstruck as he listens. After a long while, he mutters, truly worthy of being our Jun Shang. With only 10% of his power, he actually turned Tiananmen upside down. Hee, that old witch Lung Yuexia, she must be furious right now. As he speaks, they see a tall figure treading on the moonlight. Han Yi and Ingmei promptly kneel down, Greetings to Junshang. Junshang, you still haven't recovered from your injury? Why did you come to the Yinwu continent? Han Yi anxiously says, the injury you received last time when you killed the Snowfield mythological beast still hasn't completely healed. This time, you've been injured again. If you don't treat it properly, I'm afraid that it will cause irreversible damage to you. It would be better for you to return to the polar domain to recuperate. Ingmei and I will properly guard Miss June's place. There won't be any trouble. Han Yi hasn't finished speaking when he suddenly feels his whole body go cold, as if he's in a 10,000-year-old icehouse. He shakily raises his head, meeting God's cold eyes. In a split second, his body goes limp, and he almost falls to the ground. Almost in an instant, his mind recalls the scene of Miss June being held in Chang Yu's arms. The key point is that Junshang is also watching this scene. Han Yi only feels his vision darken, wishing he could faint at once. Junshang, this subordinate was wrong, he says with a sullen face. This subordinate is willing to go to the purgatory pool for three months. Diming Ju expressionlessly says, adding the accumulated time from before, how much time is that? Come out after you've finished. Dona, Han Yi screams, pitifully looking at Diming Ju. He didn't know how many years he had spent in the purgatory pool. If he came out after his time was up, wouldn't he not be able to see Mei for several years? Moreover, he would have to suffer in the purgatory pool every day? Wuwa Junshang, how could you be so cruel? Diming Ju says unhurriedly, you want to add another month? Han Yi doesn't dare to say a word, and can only ask Mei for help. However, Mei replied with a smile, don't worry, I will protect Miss June well. In a split second, Han Ye's face becomes devoid of love. Are there still any companions to love? Hello, Master. Hello, little senior brother. Chapter 630. A lot of things have happened during this time. I haven't had time to treat your big brother's illness. Now I'm free. Master, you don't have to do it. Liu Beiyu smiles and says, big brother's illness, I've already told Dr. Song and Sister Haiteng of the Immortal Camp about it. With Master's diagnosis and prescription, Dr. Song and the others have already prepared the medicine to treat my big brother. I was just about to ask you to let Sister Haiteng accompany me to Qi Yin country to treat my big brother's illness. Mayan stares blankly, somewhat unable to come back to her senses. The Everlasting Camp was established after the Ink Camp and the Tianji Camp. Apart from the Grand Void Camp commanded by Bai Yi Qin, the Everlasting Camp can be said to be the weakest. Even in the future, the speed of development will not be as fast as the Grand Void Camp, because the Grand Void Camp and the Ink Camp are in charge of fighting, and the Tianji Camp is in charge of intelligence. The Everlasting Camp is in charge of support and logistics. What it needs the most are doctors, pharmacists, alchemists, and draft planting masters, these special professions. But the training of these talents is often the most difficult. Nowadays, in the Everlasting Camp, apart from Feng Haidang and Chen Qingfeng who have received her personal guidance, the others can't even be considered as apprentices in this regard. As for Old Tao, he is mainly responsible for the external trading of various medicines of the Everlasting Camp. What makes Mayan rejoice is that the Battle of Litian City is over, even though Gong Qinu ran away. But all the soldiers under her command have surrendered. Even many people of Litian City and Lotus Town have followed Mayan back to Hellfire Valley, settling down in the valley. And Dr. Song and the others, in order to thank Mayan for saving their lives, have all given up the industry that they have been operating for decades. They choose to rely on Mayan. In this way, whether it's the newly established Grand Void Camp or the Everlasting Camp that is short of manpower, they have all been greatly replenished. Of course, the more people there are in Hellfire Valley, the more rations they need. Not to mention that she's throwing money without regard for her life, building the Hellfire Army towards the direction of the #1 army in the Yinwu continent. The money that Mayan has plundered from the Ghost City and Jingcheng country is already stretched thin. She is pondering whether to refine elixirs and let the Ghost City sell them first, or to treat Liu Beiyu's big brother. Unexpectedly, Liu Beiyu actually proposed to let Feng Haiteng help with the treatment. Liu Beiyu's eyes are tightly fixed on Mayan, his eyes brimming with admiration and gratitude. Master, you've just suffered such a serious injury some time ago, and you've even lost consciousness due to exhaustion. The disciples and the Hellfire Army don't want you to work anymore. June finally came back with great difficulty. Master, Master, and Master. Master, I believe Grand Master doesn't want you to suffer anymore. Mine's face reddens and she secretly spits. Shut up. Who are you calling Master Gong? All right, since you've already decided, then pick a day to depart. However, make sure to bring more medicine and manpower. Be careful. Lu of to say, Lu of Lu of to. Lu T2222222. Have you decided to go to Qi Yin country in person? You to of you to go to T, to be to be to of a to of long to of him. To of two of two. Chapter 631. Miss, I'm also a human. A woman who yearns for the man she loves to protect her. My heart also hurts, and I also get tired. Perhaps he doesn't want to see me at all. He doesn't want to be with me all the time. If I stay here, I'll just be torturing each other. I might as well leave for a while. Perhaps both of us can make the best choice. Mu Yin sighs softly. Since you've already decided, I will naturally support you. However, even if he went out, he couldn't leave for too long. Come back early. The gates of the Netherflame Valley are always open for you. Feng Haitong's eyes reddened. She kneels on one knee and presses one hand on her left chest, bowing deeply to Mu Yin. Miss, for Haitang, even if there is no Hao Tian here, this is already my home. You, little master, and the people of the Netherflame Army are all Haitong's family. Apart from here, where else can Haitang go? I will definitely come back. Yin Haoyan only discovered that Feng Haitong's figure had disappeared from the entire Netherflame Valley a few days later. He asked the people of the longevity camp, but they did not know where Feng Haitang had gone. She only knew that she went out with Dr. Song and did something for Mississippi. But if it was just for business, why was there no news from him for 7 days? Yin Haoyan was burning with anxiety. Terrible thoughts kept circling around in his mind, causing his mind to go blank. Finally, he couldn't help but walk into Mu Yan's bedroom. When he entered, Ru Yin happened to be there too. Before Yin Haoyan could speak, he heard Ru Yin say anxiously, Miss, the people of the Tianji Battalion have been monitoring the Qi Yin country, but a few days ago, they suddenly lost contact with Haitang and Dr. Song. Even the Qi Yin Imperial Palace is completely closed. We don't know what happened inside. When Yin Haoyan heard this, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He opened his mouth and let out a hoarse roar. Mu Yin looks at him, only to see that the usually calm and indifferent man's face is now filled with anxiety. His eyes were red with anxiety, like a wild beast that wanted to fight to the death. Mine slightly knits her brows. Haitang and Dr. Song were under my orders to treat Big Brother Liu Beiyu. According to my judgment, Big Brother Liu Beiyu's illness is due to being poisoned. I'm afraid something has happened in the Crimson Flame Imperial Palace. Therefore, Haitang also brought some people over. Logically speaking, it should be foolproof, but I didn't expect to suddenly lose contact with them. Even the Heavenly Secret Battalion couldn't find anything. Haitang might really have met with some mishap. Yin Haoyan opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he could only make a hoarse and unpleasant sound. He reached out his hand to draw, but found that his hand was trembling. For a moment, he was unable to use sign language to express his meaning smoothly. Mine coughs lightly, as if she didn't see his abnormality. She continues. We naturally can't ignore the life and death of Haitang and Dr. Song, so we must immediately dispatch troops to Qi Yin country. But this trip is very dangerous. I don't know who. Before she could finish her sentence, Yin Haoyan suddenly let out an indistinct roar. Ugh. Oh. Go. His tongue had been cut off, so he could not speak smoothly. But at this time, he was panicking and worried to the extreme. He actually forced himself to say, I'll go. Even Ru Yin was slightly moved, but then she gently shook her head. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.